Today on the 01581, a conversation with our town manager, Christy Williams, and information about a new and innovative program coming to Westboro, Post-22. You're going to love this show. Hi, and welcome to this episode of the 01581. I'm joined by regular occurring guest, Christy Williams. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. So, Christy, you're here. I think the last time you were here, we were talking about upcoming town meeting, and we had about 17 articles on the warrant. It's a distant memory now to some extent. For our viewers, all of those articles, 16 passed, one was defeated. It was a zoning article regarding a water treatment plant. We're not going to talk about that today, but we are going to focus on two of the articles that we had been talking about for a while, which is the community center. So can you give us an update?
Sure. So that article did pass, which allows the board to acquire the property and also appropriates the $8.8 million for the borrow for the purchase of the property. So that's one of the articles that passed. And then the other is the due diligence and the community engagement, which we've been talking a lot about.
Right.
So for the first article, as we've said before, that article really just gave the board the ability to acquire or the authorization to acquire. But there still was a lot to do. And
right.
So we were really, we tried to present all of that. So the due diligence we're still working through. So those are all the inspections of all the mechanicals, the structure, the pool, all of those things.
Yep.
And that'll all be completed in November. And then the board is also working on two sort of other agreements related to the P&S, which is the indemnification agreement, and then also the reciprocal easement agreement. Yep. So within that reciprocal easement agreement is that CAM we talked about, the common area maintenance. So both of those need to be negotiated. So you'll continue to see that on the board's executive session.
We'll try not to talk about it every time you're on the show, but it's a big deal for the community in so many ways. It's really a kind of innovative, forward-thinking investment for the community, and so and it's a big deal. It's not a small amount of money, and so you had put out a timeline at town meeting. Just if you can give folks sort of a refresher of what that will look like now.
Sure. So the idea was that we would start to look at the RFP for the community engagement now. So that's something that we'll need to start working on.
You envision hiring an external consultant that has some experience in this, basically?
Yeah, okay, so it's typically an architect who would bring us from those conceptual discussions, envisioning, to schematic design.
Got it.
And then the closing dates are in mid-March. Right now is mid-March. So there's an extended closing date to July, so it could be sort of any time between mid-March and July. And so we'll continue to work towards those dates and keep everybody updated.
Excellent. And then sort of related to the community center, because that being that it's going to be an intergenerational community center, at tonight's board meeting, which is October 24th, we're recording the show, there's a related item that will be presented.
Yep, so our assistant town manager, Kim Foster, is going to present the implementation plan. So there's been a group working with her, yourself, on the senior needs assessment and taking those recommendations and creating a implementation plan. So that's over multiple years, but really wanting to plan for those implementations, because that was a really important study that we did. Right.
And so this implementation plan, for folks that weren't familiar with it, or familiar maybe with the study, but are familiar with like our master plan and our strategic plan, in particular the strategic plan, we had the plan, it was done, lots of input to get to that point, and then it was like, okay, now what do we do? And so this is really that next step. So I'm excited for the board to hear that presentation and for the community to, take a look at it, and understanding that many of those dates out there or years are like kind of benchmarks. Some of the work is already in process, and from as a member of that work group, the one of the big question marks was, what about the intergenerational center? So a lot of that, kind of will align with the work being, a lot of that meaning the work of the assessment and the needs assessment. Those implementation elements will align with the community center. So very excited,
yeah, really excited. Really excited.
And then just for related to the town, and I just want to make sure that folks are aware that on November 11th, which is a Saturday at 10:30 in the morning in front of the Forbes building, will be the Veterans Day celebration recognition. So folks are welcome to attend. All events will be centered there. Sometimes in the past there's been sort of a parade, but it will be a focused event there. So again, Saturday, November 11th at 10:30, come out and let's recognize our veterans. So Christy, thanks so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
All right.
All right, thanks. We'll be back with Christine Simpson and Post-22. Hi, and welcome back to the 01581. I'm joined by a very special guest, Christine Simpson. Christine is the founder and innovator of a new program here in Westboro called Post-22. We're going to get to know Christine a little bit and talk about what led her to create Post-22 and exactly what is Post-22. So Christine, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so excited to have you on. We had coffee not too long ago. I had a chance to learn about Post-22. It was definitely a program that I've certainly fallen in love with as in its infancy here. And although I know you've been working at it for some time, and I really felt like this was an important show for our community to hear and to start to get glimpses of as the program is physically built out. So first of all, let's talk about you. So you're Christine Simpson. You've been in Westboro. Tell us about you.
Yes, so Christine Simpson, we have a son that was diagnosed with a rare disease.
And how rare? I mean, I think it's
Ultra rare.
Ultra
yeah.
rare.
We've been in Westboro for a very long time. Ashley and Ben have gone through the school systems. Ashley's at college. Ben is at the borough.
Yep.
Ben was diagnosed when he was 2. He was having seizures every 30 to 45 seconds. And he was diagnosed initially with epilepsy, but we knew that it was something much more serious than epilepsy. Genetic testing, being in the rare disease.
And how old is Ben now?
Ben is 21 and a half.
Okay, so just for perspective, and we had talked about this, right? So genetic testing then versus now.
Very different.
Very different.
So
right?
Genetic testing tomorrow is better than genetic testing today. And being in the pharmaceutical industry for 30 years, I've been in rare disease for more than half of that. I knew that the rare disease was not going to be diagnosed right away.
Right.
So he was diagnosed when he was 12 with EF182.
So just for perspective, so started showing symptoms at the age of 2.
Yeah.
And
seizures,
and no clarity, no sort of this is what he has, like honing in treatment or otherwise, right?
Very challenging. Very challenging.
10 years.
For 10 years. He was, showing signs of autism, brain damage, intellectual disabilities. When we were going through testing every 3 years at Children's, and then we were transferred to a specialist at Mass General, it was our year for genetic testing. It was year 3, and they found a missing protein in his DNA. He was the 8th person diagnosed with EEF1A2. We have over 100 families worldwide.
Wow.
So when we got that testing done, it changed our world, and it gave us clarity to the runway for Ben.
Right. Probably fair to say a mix of clarity, but yet reality that there's not a fix for this.
No cure.
There's no cure.
No therapy.
Right.
I left the industry when we got that diagnosis. I was in it for 25 years. I took a year off to understand the patient advocacy, to understand, all right, what do I have to do now for clinical trials? And going down that research road, I understood that the missing protein in Ben's DNA could not be injected.
So there was a connection to a doctor in Scotland, is that correct?
Yes, University of Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Dr. Kathy Abbott has been working on EEF1A2 for 20 years.
So in your quest to get answers for your son, you're doing this research, you make a connection with this physician.
Dr. Abbott.
And you're like, oh my goodness, someone's been studying this, right?
Yes.
Like someone knows, even as rare as it is, someone knows about this. And there have been some studies, some actual trials in mice, is that correct?
She was going through mice studies, and
to your point about the protein, so they had identified the protein that was defective, if you will, right?
Yes.
Or missing? What's the
missing?
Okay.
Yeah.
So and they had
Injected the mice,
and the result was
cancer throughout the body of the mice. So
fascinating that, I mean, just without, I'm not a clinician, but fascinating that that protein, like I guess a synthetic protein, right?
Exactly.
Would then create a whole other cascade. So that sort of shut down, fair to
that
say?
study, and that shut down my mindset for cure within the, or a therapy within the 10 to 15 year runway.
Right.
She is now partnered with AstraZeneca. We all know AstraZeneca and love AstraZeneca from Westboro.
Yep.
And hopefully they will continue to find some type of clinical therapy or research that can help our families with EEF.
Is it possible, I guess anything is possible, right? We'd love to dream about these things, that while there may not be a cure, could there be other developments in medicine that would address some of the symptoms, or not really?
Yeah, so Ben is on 4 different meds right now to control his seizures.
Okay.
And to help with some of the other symptoms that he has.
So those medicines exist and are helpful in nature.
It's a cocktail of drugs.
Yeah.
And it's a journey to understand what combination of drugs are beneficial for that type of diagnosis.
Okay.
And the drugs have its own side effects on top of it. The toxicity is unbelievable for these drugs.
Sure. So I would imagine there's an element of managing nutrition as well as making sure he's taking the meds that are helpful for him.
Right. The meds have to be taken an hour apart, and they have to be taken with a full stomach, water.
Sure.
It's just it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. So there's some clarity, and we're obviously fast forwarding, not trying to be insensitive to this, but wanting to kind of make sure we kind of talk about fast forward to almost where we are now.
Yeah.
So you go through this process. There are ups and downs. There's lots of disappointment, as we had discussed offline. And but here in Westboro, you found an educational system and then a program, the borough, that were, I'll say, were real true blessings. So can you talk about kind of your experience here in Westboro?
Our experience here in Westboro with the borough has been fascinating. Benjamin has grown leaps and bounds since entering the borough. They're the superheroes of Westboro, my opinion.
Yep.
I
thought the select board was the superhero. Okay, wait, let me recover. Okay, go ahead. No.
Yeah, the staff at the borough has made such a difference for our family and for the other families that are there.
And how? I mean, I think sort of for those of us on the outside, we sort of go, okay, yeah, I get it. But how does that program, and just for our viewers, so students go to school. They go to school K through 12. They're in kind of, I'll say, sort of traditional classroom settings, right? Whatever their abilities are. And then after they're 18, right, they graduate. And if it weren't for the borough program, then they would be somewhere in the hinterlands of Massachusetts trying to kind of find their way through day programs. Is that fair to say? Okay, so.
I don't really understand what that process is, and I cringe to even think about it, to be honest with you. But when we transition from the high school to the 18 to 22 program, it's truly a transition into adulthood. We then concentrate on life skills. We concentrate on training and employment, and
I should back up because I just said something that might have been misleading. So from 18 to 22, the district has a responsibility to continue to provide education, support, what have you. So there's a commitment by the state to, it's not like go figure it out, but the borough creates structure and
dynamics,
lots of
and just support end to end. The borough is best in class. Everyone wants to be like the borough. Everyone wants to be like the Sugar Shack. I mean, Kristen, the manager of the Sugar Shack, she's made that into a candy mansion. I mean, I don't even know how to explain it. You
Willy
just walk
Wonka
in,
would be jealous.
Walk in and you'll understand the vibe and the love and the support that she gives to our adults that transition from the borough into the front of the store to go through that training, the employment, the interactions with our community, the customers, the money process, developing change and using credit cards and inventory stocking, just like you and I going to work.
Absolutely.
And not every district, unfortunately, is capable or able to provide services so robust as the borough.
And I think that there's the, I'll call it kind of education that happens sort of behind the scenes at the borough, right? And then the Sugar Shack is kind of the front, the business end of it, but then there's also a back end business of packaging and what have you that the adults are doing. And so a typical day program here at the borough is how long? Like what would Ben's experience be? Is it like 8 a.m. to like 2 p.m.? And I know it varies for each student. That's the other thing, is all this is highly customized, right? Because some students are leaving the borough to go to, outside employment or schools or whatever.
18 to 22, our borough is from 8 to 2:37. Okay, in the afternoon. Angelina and Erin and Karen, Amber, Kristen, the staff and the paras, they do an incredible job of individualizing their program for each one of these adults. Now, Benjamin, I can just speak on behalf of Benjamin, he works at the Sugar Shack at least once a week. He works after school or on Saturdays for a shift of 2 to 3 hours, and he also works in the front of the Sugar Shack during the borough hours. He also is working at a establishment called AIS, that is outside of our community. Angelina and Erin have developed this strategic partnership with a company that trains and employs our population for work.
Purpose, right?
Purpose,
right?
Value.
Absolutely. And one of the things that struck me when we were preparing for this conversation was you were saying that, so it's important to say, so there's a reason why the number is post-22, because at the age of 22, these kids age out, right? They age out. So if not for a post-22 program, what happens to these adults?
Sure, and just to plug Post-22, I did not come up with that name.
Oh, okay.
I want to give all this credit to Erin LaPrade at the borough.
All right.
This time last year, we were thinking about, so when the foundation and the clinical trials, the IND process for the FDA did not pan out for me.
Yep.
We pivoted, and we wanted to create a upscale coffee shop
Right.
for our adults to work in.
Right.
We were looking at spaces. I was with Erin and with Amber, and Erin said, "How about Post-22?" And it's stuck ever since.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
So we need to give credit to
All
them.
right. Excellent.
So after the age of 22, we have 21-day programs in Metro West, and it's a referral process. 6 months. We are 6 months prior to the adult turning the age of 22. We meet with our DDS representative. We have an incredible DDS representative for Westboro. Her name
Okay.
is Brandy. And we strategically decide upon what is best for that adult.
Sure.
For Ben, he needs a very highly motivated community day program
Okay.
that encompasses training, employment, and community service interactions with peers and with people that are outside of
his peer group.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the things you would share with me, which I really resonated, was the if Ben were to be in a program that wasn't as you just described, like the progress and the regression rate. Can you give a sense for those listening,
Sure.
kind of what that is?
The progression that the borough and the Sugar Shack has given to Benjamin has been tremendous. He has grown so much since starting there 4 years ago. And if he was to participate in a community day program that was not structured such as the borough, he would regress very fast. He would regress probably months per week. I mean, he would not be happy.
Yeah, so there's a real drop off in a cliff.
There's a cliff.
Yeah.
There's definitely a cliff.
Understood. And again, you're speaking to Ben's experience.
Right.
It's not everyone's experience, but the point is, I think, sort of there's a rich program that is enriching for Ben and other adults. And in the absence of that at 22, I mean, the state does what it can, right? With these day programs, but and there's, correct me if I'm wrong, they're not even accepting names on the wait list.
I was just about to say that.
Right?
Yeah, if we're lucky enough to even get into a day program, there's over 3,000 person waiting list, and it's probably bigger now. We're coming into the last fourth quarter. These metrics, I read these metrics at the beginning of this year. So if Ben doesn't get into a day program, then what does he do? What do you do? What does his dad do? Like what? Then what? He's at home. He's at home.
Okay.
He's at home.
And like, I mean, might imagine all of us, right? You know, if we're at home and we're not purposeful, right? And Ben clearly needs, help and guidance and structure, right? And if you're working and everyone else is working, right? And if you can't be, right, because you got to kind of pay the bills and all that, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Then it's not too far of a stretch to imagine someone being like, okay, I'm just kind of watching TV, right? Like in the absence of listening to music, right? Yeah,
it's sad.
Right.
And I receive phone calls from parents on a weekly basis since we started the summer program for Post-22 of parents, their referrals were accepted last minute, now there's no staffing. They have to quit their jobs.
Sure.
So there's relationship angst,
of course,
difficulties.
Sure.
It's hard.
Sure,
it's
sure.
hard.
Because we're asking.
We have no options.
Right. And parents aren't necessarily like, they're equipped to be parents, are not necessarily equipped to be like caregivers and educational kind of like life coaching specialists, right?
Exactly.
Right.
And that cliff, it comes fast.
Right.
I mean, we are surrounded by a very, very supported community. And then the next day,
You're kind of
You're
on your own.
not.
Right.
And you lose that social connection.
So let's pivot. So you've taken kind of all this energy, the ups and the downs, and you said, I got to do something,
Yeah.
right? And so you came up with a concept. Now we're referring to it as Post-22. We're going to talk about a video. We're going to watch a video in just a moment. But what
Sure.
is Post-22?
So Post-22 is a community day program in Westboro where our adults they don't have to leave their home community, or they don't have to go far outside of their home community.
Yep.
We are a day program that offers community outreach, recreation, training, employment. We have a learning lab. We have a packaging and labeling area that we are bringing work into Post-22 for our adults to execute. For those adults that don't feel comfortable working on site for a long period of time.
Sure. And you actually did, I'll call it a trial run, that might not be the right way, but you had a Post-22 summer program, right?
We started actually with a February camp.
Okay.
And then an April camp.
Okay.
I hired my first employee, Kayla, that none of this would be possible without her. She's incredible. I hired her in April, after the April camp, and we started our summer camp June 1st, and we're still going.
Okay.
It's a summer program going into the fall.
Got it. And you did all those things. I know you know the numbers. How many every day you went out someplace?
Yes.
Right?
In the summer, I think Kayla, I think it was like 62 places that we went in the 9 weeks that we were.
And we had talked about a few of those. I was like, I would love to go on that, right?
I would too.
I mean, it ranged from the zoo to the museums to ice cream to mini golf. I mean, there was a whole range of certainly fun activities as well as educational.
There was.
Okay, so fast forward. So you've taken this the February summer extended. Post-22 continues to operate, correct?
We do.
Okay.
We do.
Okay.
Yes.
But
we have
there's
a very generous landlord that keeps extending our services to the next month.
Okay.
And I'm very grateful.
Great.
Yes.
Great. Well, I'm sure that landlord feels a reward for the work that
I
you're doing and how they're helping
I'm
that.
sure. Yeah.
But Post-22 version 2, if it's fair to say that, is coming forward, and we have a video.
Yes, I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Very
So
excited.
we're going to watch this video, and then
Okay.
we'll talk about it. So
Thank you.
let's roll the video.
Life is a journey, but for intellectually disabled adults over the age of 22, it can often feel like a daunting climb. Many face what's known as the disability cliff, a moment when the support they've known starts to fade. They find themselves separated from their friends they have known for 18 years, and the path forward becomes uncertain. It's a challenge that needs a solution. And that's where Post-22 comes in. At Post-22, we're committed to empowering these remarkable individuals. We understand that everyone's journey is unique, so we offer personalized and robust training, employment, and community-based programs. Our mission is clear: to provide innovative, strategic education and training programs tailored to each individual's unique needs, encompassing their strengths, passions, and special abilities. And we are proud to announce a new and innovative space set to open soon within Bay State Commons in Westboro, Massachusetts, promising a vibrant addition to the community. Our Community Day program isn't just a place. It's a haven of support where they can thrive, connect, and most importantly, feel valued. But we don't stop there. Post-22 is dedicated to securing appropriate training, internship, and employment opportunities that foster productivity and independence, a highly individualized approach to a very robust quality of life. We believe that every individual has the right to lead a fulfilling life, to be part of a workforce that values their unique abilities. Post-22 is more than an organization. It's a community that's breaking down barriers, creating opportunities, and supporting dreams. Join us at Post-22 and be part of a brighter future, where every individual, regardless of their abilities, has the chance to shine. Together, we're changing lives, one step at a time.
Wow. Wow, that is.
I get choked up every time.
Oh my God!
watch.
So for viewers, as
Thank
we are
you.
watching this, I'm first of all, I have my little Kleenex because everyone knows that I cry at everything, but truly like tears of joy and a full heart that you have created this program. I know we said we weren't going to cry, right?
Thank you.
So wow. So you see so much here of like that employment opportunity, and to your point, not everyone can leave, right? So Ben works with AIS. So I think we saw a picture of someone had an AIS shirt there.
That was Ben, yeah.
He was doing some work there. So you have adults that can go out and do that, but not everyone can. They can't go out for long periods of time. So you're going to bring employment here.
Yes, and Curry Printing, just to thank a few people.
Yeah,
Jeremy
sure.
and Jill Grossman. This would not be possible without that space. Jill Grossman, founder of, Beyond the Boundaries,
Yep.
an incredible, incredible capability that is something that we don't have right now
Yep.
in our network.
Yep.
Jeremy, obviously, Grossman Development Company.
Yep.
That space
Yep.
has never been occupied, and it's a brand new space for us.
Yeah.
So very grateful for that.
Yeah.
In terms of bringing work in, Curry Printing is a strong supporter of the borough.
Yep.
We have our young adults that go there for
Love it.
training and employment.
Wow.
And you saw Hunter. He was
Yeah.
at Curry Printing.
Yep.
We've been in discussions with them to bring work in
Yeah.
from Curry Printing
Yeah.
and another strategic partner also.
Wow.
You saw Shinya. He was working at Jersey Mike's.
Wow.
Some of our adults
awesome.
are able to go. He's on the grill.
Yeah.
He's cooking.
Yeah.
He's part of the borough.
I love Jersey Mike's.
I know. I know. Jersey Mike's is a huge
That's awesome.
supporter of the borough.
That's great. Well, and I love this. So, the ability to bring businesses and the Post-22 together, I mean, I think is
Yeah.
just, it's so enriching. I know you and your team will take the time. You want your adults to be successful, and you want that employer relationship to be successful, right? Because things change. Those adults may age out or transition out of an employment, so you want to be able to kind of have that
network.
strong network and
Right.
relationship.
We're also reaching out to Alnylam Pharmaceuticals is our flagship sponsor right now. Jill and I are sponsoring a Halloween dance for our adults
Awesome.
in Massachusetts at Hopkinton Country Club this Friday, and Alnylam put together 50 goodie bags.
Wow.
They sent them in. They gave us a donation. I meet with them every couple weeks. They've been incredible.
Wow.
And we're looking at other
Sure.
pharmaceutical companies with rare diseases comes disability, comes the pharmaceutical as therapies. I
Sure.
mean, community outreach, AbbVie is right in our backyard. Would love to have them on board for
Sure.
Post-22. It's
Sure.
we have to be very mindful of who can support us
Yep.
within the industry
Sure.
or within the community
Sure.
also. And these companies have robust community
Sure.
outreach capabilities for us.
Well, I think that this is going to be a great program.
Thank you.
Coming to Westboro. When is there a timeline? I know you got to
Yeah.
do the build out, but
Yeah, I'd rather over-deliver than
Yeah,
under-deliver,
yeah,
so
okay,
I'm
okay.
looking at first quarter of 2024.
okay,
We've
great.
been given an
Great.
earlier onboarding,
Yeah,
but
well, we'll just say first quarter,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Absolutely. So we'll make sure that the information about how to learn more about Post-22 is on the screen,
Great, thank
so
you.
folks can follow up with you and ask questions. I would encourage, if you're an employer that wants to learn more about Post-22, if you're a parent that wants to learn more about Post-22, Christine is an amazing resource. I don't want to add any more to her already overflowing plate, but I will, because I think that you're doing great things, and we're so appreciative. So anyway, so I hope you enjoyed the show. I know I did, and I can't wait to see what happens down at Bay State Commons with the coming of Post-22. Thanks so much for watching. Be well, take care, and be good to each other.
Thank you.